Well, hello, it's Miss Gina, and we're back for chapter 7 of the Gravedigger. Strange things are happening in creepers. This chapter is called The Gravedigger. Ebenezer Crim didn't know he was being watched. As he sat in his own dirty living room, covered in dust and flooded with mice scrambling across the floor, running into every little nook and cranny in the walls, he was completely unaware that sitting across the table from him was a ghost. It wasn't Count Vania, or Mummy, or Lex Killen, or Wolfie. It was a ghost that Ebenezer hadn't seen before and couldn't see now. The ghost had long, skinny white fingers, a long, thin body, and a wrinkly, scarred face with black holes where his eyes should be. Ebenezer was polishing his machine, getting ready to destroy some ghosts like he had tried to the previous night, when he heard some scratching noises coming from the other side of the table. He stopped what he was doing immediately and listened. The ghost that he couldn't see got up from the chair across from him and floated across the table toward him, stopping inches from his face. Ebenezer Crim knew that something was there, but he wasn't sure what exactly. Then he heard it. The scratching began again. The ghost was dragging his long fingernails across the table in front of him, making the wood, marking the wood. The scratching began again. The ghost was dragging his long fingernails across the table in front of him, marking the wood. Ebenezer looked down at the long, thin scratches that were appearing on his table and knew that somewhere in front of him was a ghost. One yank by Ebenezer on the chain of his sucking machine roared to life. And his sucking machine roared to life. He kicked back his chair, swung the tube toward the ghost in front of him, and flipped the switch. Broken plates and cups started flying around the room, along with pictures, ornaments, and anything that wasn't screwed down. It was all sucked into the air and down the long black tube Ebenezer held in his hands. "Time to die, Mr. Ghosty," he screamed at the top of his lungs. "Time to die, Mr. Ghosty." As most of his living room began to disappear inside the machine, even after he switched it off, it took a couple of minutes for the room to settle. Ebenezer stood in the middle of the room, panting and wheezing as sweat dripped off the end of his pointy nose. His face had a horrible grin on it. This was the first time Ebenezer had used the machine on a ghost, and he was sure it had worked. Then he heard the same scratching noise he heard before, but this time it was behind him. Now Ebenezer Crim was angry. "I'm going to rip you into little pieces and kill you," he screamed as he spun the machine around and once again flipped the switch. Before the machine had a chance to start up, Ebenezer was flung across the room, banging off the wall and falling on the floor. He staggered to his feet. "Where are you?" he yelled. In a flash, the ghost appeared in front of him, frightening him so much that he staggered back and fell down. "Don't even think about using that machine again," the ghost said to him. "Who are you?" asked Ebenezer. "I'm an old employee of this graveyard," the ghost replied. "I used to be the Gravedigger, Ebenezer got to his feet again. "What do you want from me?" he asked. "I want you to help me get rid of the Prices," the gravedigger replied. Ebenezer sat down, not taking his eyes off the ghost for a second. Although he hated ghosts, he was beginning to hate Jamie and his family even more. "Go on," said Mr. Krim. Now he was curious to hear what the ghost had to say. "One thing I noticed yesterday," began the gravedigger, "was how much you managed to scare the Price family. I thought nothing could scare that family. Certainly not ghosts." "Were you there yesterday?" asked Ebenezer. "Because I never saw you." "You never saw me because I never wanted you to." "You never saw me because I never wanted you or the Prices to see me," continued the gravedigger. "But the Prices can see all ghosts," said Ebenezer. "I know," said the gravedigger. "They would have been able to see me had I not learned how to hide. You only see me if I want you to see me." "Well, what about the ghosts? Surely they can see you," Ebenezer said. "Yes, they can see me," he replied. "But I can also turn myself into other ghosts. So I can appear as one of the ghost's friends, and no one would know the difference." Ebenezer sat for a few seconds thinking about what the gravedigger had said. And then he asked, "Why do you want to get rid of the Price family?" The gravedigger floated toward Ebenezer Krim. "The reason I want to get rid of them," he began, "is because ever since they moved into that house, they've made my afterlife miserable. Things used to be peaceful before they came." Ebenezer Krim nodded in agreement. At last he had someone who thought like him on his side. "If you want to get rid of those 4 ghosts that live with the Prices, don't waste your time with silly machines. All you have to do is get rid of the Prices. The ghosts will follow them anywhere," said the gravedigger. But Ebenezer interrupted. "Don't the Prices look for evil spirits like you and try to put them to rest?" "Let me worry about that," replied the gravedigger. "So what do you say? Are you going to help me get rid of them?" Ebenezer looked at him with his evil eyes, and said, "What if I don't help you?" The gravedigger moved closer to Ebenezer, right up to his face, and said, "If you don't help me, I'll get rid of you too." For the first time in his life, Ebenezer Krim felt scared. "How are we going to get rid of them?" he asked. "It's quite simple. We'll either scare them out or we'll throw them out," said the gravedigger. As Ebenezer watched the gravedigger laugh at the thought of it, he knew that this was the beginning of very horrible things to come. And that was the end. We'll be on chapter 8 next time. I hope you enjoyed that. It's getting a little spooky. See you next time.